The Madison Group's annual shareholders meeting always felt more like a family reunion from hell. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead in the grand conference room as shareholders filed in, their whispers echoing off marble walls. I sat in the back row, smoothing my simple black dress, not designer like the other women's, but elegant in its own way. "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence," my brother James's voice dripped with mockery as he approached. "The prodigal daughter returns." I kept my expression neutral, though my hands tightened around the leather portfolio in my lap. Inside were documents worth more than the building we sat in, but James didn't need to know that. Not yet. "Hello, James," I said quietly. "How's the company?" He straightened his Hermes tie, a smirk playing at his lips. "Wouldn't you like to know? Though I suppose you keep up with our stock price from your... What are you doing these days?" "Consulting." Before I could respond, our sister Victoria joined us, her Louboutins clicking against the marble floor. "Olivia. What a surprise. I didn't think you could afford the trip back to New York on your current salary." 5 years ago their words would have cut deep. Back then I was the family disappointment, the Madison who couldn't handle the pressure of working at the family firm. The one who had a nervous breakdown and quit her VP position to find herself. At least that's how they told the story. The truth was considerably different. "Just wanted to see how everything's going," I said mildly. "Big changes ahead from what I hear." Victoria's perfectly penciled eyebrows rose. "Oh. And what would you know about that?" "More than you can imagine," I thought, but kept quiet. Instead I watched my father take the podium, his silver hair gleaming under the chandeliers. Harrison Madison III, CEO of Madison Group, looking every inch the corporate titan he believed himself to be. "Welcome, shareholders." His voice boomed through the room. "Today marks a historic moment for Madison Group." I tuned out his usual platitudes, thinking back to the day everything changed. I was working late as usual when I discovered the discrepancies. Small at first, rounding errors in the books, mysterious consultancy fees, offshore accounts that didn't quite add up. But as I dug deeper, the truth emerged. My father and brothers had been cooking the books for years. When I confronted them, they gave me 2 choices. Keep quiet and take a promotion, or leave with nothing. I chose option 3. I quit publicly, letting them spin whatever story they wanted. Let them call me weak, unstable, unable to handle the pressure. Meanwhile, I took everything I'd discovered to build something of my own. Atlas Capital was born in a tiny office in Singapore, far from my family's watchful eyes. I started small, making careful investments, building connections. Every time I heard about my family mocking my failure, I channeled that energy into growth. 5 years later, Atlas Capital managed more assets than Madison Group's entire portfolio. Not that anyone knew I was behind it. I operated through layers of holding companies and shell corporations, keeping my name off every document. My father's voice drew me back to the present. Which brings me to today's announcement. As you know, Madison Group has faced some challenges in recent quarters. Challenges. I suppressed a smile. He meant the SEC investigation I'd quietly triggered 6 months ago, the one that had sent their stock price plummeting. But I'm pleased to announce we've received a generous acquisition offer from Atlas Capital. Their representative will be here shortly too. The conference room doors opened and my assistant Thomas walked in. Right on cue. "Poor Olivia," James whispered loudly enough for nearby shareholders to hear. "Couldn't even keep her job here. Now she has to watch us succeed from the sidelines." Victoria laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "At least she had the sense to show up today. Maybe she'll learn something about real business." I checked my watch. In exactly 3 minutes they'd learn what real business looked like. Thomas approached the podium, handing my father a folder. Even from the back row, I could see his hands shaking slightly as he reviewed the documents. "These terms." He looked up, confusion clouding his features. "They're different from what we discussed." "The original terms were provisional," Thomas replied smoothly. "The final offer is non-negotiable." I watched my father's face pale as he read further. The new terms were brutal fare, but designed to strip him and my brothers of any real power in the company they thought they'd run forever. James snatched the papers from our father's hands, his arrogant smile faltering as he read. "This is ridiculous. Who do they think they are?" "Atlas Capital CEO is very particular about terms," Thomas said, his eyes meeting mine briefly. Speaking of which, that was my cue. I stood, smoothing my dress as I walked toward the podium. The click of my heels against marble seemed to echo through the suddenly silent room. "Hello, Father," I said calmly. "I believe you were about to introduce the new owner of Madison Group." The blood drained from his face as understanding dawned. Behind him, James dropped the acquisition papers. Victoria's perfectly painted mouth fell open. "No," my father whispered. "It's not possible." I reached into my portfolio and pulled out another set of documents. "Actually, it is. Atlas Capital is ready to proceed with the acquisition. Unless, of course, you'd prefer I share some interesting historical documents with the SEC." The room erupted in whispers. Shareholders leaned forward in their seats, sensing blood in the water. My father gripped the podium so hard his knuckles turned white. "You wouldn't dare," James hissed. "You'd destroy everything." I turned to face the shareholders, channeling every lesson about authority my father had ever taught me. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to properly introduce myself. I'm Olivia Madison, CEO of Atlas Capital. And I believe we have some changes to discuss." The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, 5 years of careful planning, of working in the shadows while they mocked my failure, crystallized into perfect victory. But this wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice for every employee they'd exploited, every investor they'd deceived, every rule they'd broken believing their name put them above the law. "Now," I said, taking my father's place at the podium, "shall we begin?" The next hour passed in a blur of legal documents, shareholder questions, and the hollow sound of my family's empire crumbling. I stood at the podium, outlining Atlas Capital's plans for Madison Group's restructuring, while my father and siblings sat in stunned silence. "In summary," I concluded, "Atlas Capital will maintain the Madison Group name and core business operations, but with significant corporate governance changes. Full audits of all divisions will begin immediately." A prominent shareholder raised his hand. "And the current management team?" "Will be evaluated based on merit, not family connections." I met James's eyes. "Some changes will be necessary, given certain accounting irregularities we've discovered." The room erupted in concerned murmurs. My father finally found his voice. "You can't do this," he stood, his face flushed with anger. "We're your family." "Family?" Kept my voice level. "Was it family when you offered to bury my discoveries about the offshore accounts? Or when you threatened to destroy my reputation if I didn't stay quiet?" Victoria jumped up. "You're lying. Daddy would never dash." "Sit down, Victoria." I pulled out another folder. "Unless you'd like me to share the details of your creative bookkeeping in the Asian subsidiaries?" She sank back into her chair, face pale beneath her perfect makeup. "The meeting is adjourned," I announced. "Shareholders will receive detailed documentation of the acquisition terms. My team will begin transition procedures immediately." As the shareholders filed out, many shooting curious glances between me and my family, Thomas appeared at my side with a tablet. "The press release is ready," he murmured. "And your father's private files have been secured." I nodded. "Have security escort them to the conference room. We need to have a family discussion." Minutes later, we sat around the massive conference table where I'd attended countless meetings as VP. The view of Manhattan through the floor-to-ceiling windows was the same, but everything else had changed. 5 years, my father broke the silence. "You planned this for 5 years?" "Actually," I opened my laptop. "I planned it for 5 years, 3 months and 14 days. Ever since the night you gave me an ultimatum, keep quiet about the fraud or leave with nothing." James leaned forward. "It was just creative accounting, Olivia. Everyone does it." "No, James. Everyone doesn't commit systematic fraud." I pulled up a spreadsheet. "Shall we discuss the shell companies in the Caymans? Or the fake consultancy fees you used to hide losses?" "How did you?" Victoria whispered. "Build Atlas Capital?" I smiled. "With every document I copied before I left. Every connection I made. Every lesson you taught me about ruthless business practices. I just applied them more ethically." "You're going to destroy us," my father's voice cracked. "Everything I built, everything you corrupted," I corrected. "But I'm not here to destroy Madison Group. I'm here to save it." I turned my laptop around, showing them projections for the company's restructuring. Atlas Capital specializes in turning around troubled companies. We clean them up, make them legitimate, and build sustainable growth. That's what I'm offering Madison Group, a chance at redemption. And what about us? James demanded. That depends on you. I met each of their eyes in turn. Victoria, you're actually brilliant at international marketing when you're not hiding losses. James, your client relationships are strong even if your ethics are weak. And Dad. I paused. You built something amazing before you lost your way. What are you saying? Victoria asked cautiously. I'm offering you a choice. Not the fake choice you gave me 5 years ago, but a real one. You can fight this, try to challenge the acquisition, leak stories to the press, make things messy. If you do, the SEC gets everything. You'll face charges and Madison Group's reputation will never recover. My father's face hardened. Or you can earn your positions back. Properly this time. Work under Atlas Capital's oversight. Learn to do things legally. Prove your value beyond your last name. You expect us to work for you? James scoffed. Our little sister? No, I expect you to work for Madison Group's new CEO. I slid 3 folders across the table. Sarah Chin starts next week. She's brilliant, ethical, and has no patience for entitled executives who think rules don't apply to them. You're not taking control yourself? Victoria asked, surprised. I built Atlas Capital to fix broken companies, not run them. Sarah will handle Madison Group's transformation. I'll focus on Atlas's bigger picture. I stood up. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose wisely. As I turned to leave, my father's voice stopped me. Why give us a chance at all? Why not just destroy us? I thought about all the employees who depended on Madison Group for their livelihoods. About the clients who trusted us. About the legacy my grandfather had started before my father corrupted it. Because someone once told me that true business success isn't about destroying value, it's about creating it. I met his eyes. You taught me that, Dad. Before you forgot it yourself. Later that evening, I stood in my real office, the top floor of Atlas Capital's headquarters across town. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. I want to meet with Sarah Chin. Properly this time. Then James, those projections you showed us. I have some ideas for legitimate growth in the European market. Finally, my father, I found Grandpa's original business plan in my desk. Would you have dinner with me? There are things I need to say. I looked at their messages, remembering the scared, angry girl who'd fled New York 5 years ago. She'd wanted revenge. But somewhere along the way, building Atlas Capital had taught me something more valuable than vengeance. My assistant knocked softly. Ms. Madison? The Chin family's private jet just landed. Sarah will be ready to start Monday. Thank you, Thomas. I picked up my phone, typing replies. To Victoria, Sarah's free for breakfast tomorrow. Dress for work, not for show. To James, bring your ideas to the transition meeting. Legal ideas only. To my father, dinner tomorrow. Bring Grandpa's plan. Dad, bring yourself, not the CEO. I turned back to the window, watching the city lights begin to twinkle on. 5 years ago, I'd left Madison Group with nothing but evidence of their fraud and a determination to succeed. Now I own their company, but instead of destroying them, I was offering a chance at redemption.